And we're live. And very excited to be here. We've all made it to the end of the road, so to speak, or nearly there.
First time this week that we've had all four of us as well.
Right. That's right. Like all four of your excited Motor One editors are here to talk about a lot of cars again. Thank you all for joining us. I'm I'm giving up some of the comment reading duties to Mr. Brett Evans because, as you probably can hear, my voice is about the same quality as our Wi-Fi probably is today. A little pixelated, a little scratchy, but no matter where you guys are watching, we want to encourage you, as usual, to ask as many questions, give us as many comments as possible. If you're interested in following up on anything, we would love to hear from you. Doesn't matter if you're on Twitter, if you're on Facebook, or if you are watching on YouTube. You can leave a comment on whatever platform you're on. We will read it and love it. In the meantime, I just want to call out our amazing sponsor for the last time on this podcast. The 2022 Motor1.com Star Awards are yet again brought to you by E-Range EV Tires. The all-new E-Range EV is a tire specifically engineered for electric vehicles using an advanced manufacturing process called liquid phase mixing. E-Range EV's EcoPoint 3 technology creates a tire with lower rolling resistance, longer range, while offering low levels of wear and high levels of grip. All this while staying affordable. You guys should check them out at erangetires.com. That's ERANGE tires.com to get the next set of tires for your EV. Thanks again to Salute and the E-Range people for all of that. We're very excited to have them on as our title sponsor. With that said, excuse me, we're talking kind of two very different groups today, right? We're talking about performance cars, and we're talking about some of our very favorite highest level of value cars today. So this is a little bit loose, you guys. We've been working hard all day, so a little bit less prep going into this one. So where do you guys want to start? Like, what should we dig into first?
Let's say performance for last. Let's talk about value, and then we'll finish with our day at the track.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. Oh, right on.
That's not ideal. Hold on.
No, Brett.
Brandon. Oh, Brandon, your mic is off.
Well, that's because it was handed to me by someone that didn't turn it on.
All right.
You know?
We have
you don't want to hear from me anyways.
We have a cold mic situation, ladies and gentlemen.
Brandon's opinions on some of the cars are bad anyway, so you don't want
Hello, I am here.
Value is really interesting. We've talked about this a lot before. We've got cross-pollination this year in the Star Awards, right?
Yeah.
So things that are eligible in one category are also eligible for others, and value has the most overlap of any of the categories.
Absolutely.
For good reason, right? Like,
we have a car that competed in the luxury class in value. We have a car that competed in SUV in value. I think the only one that wasn't represented was EVs. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Every other category we had at least one entrant in the value class.
Yep. And the thing that's interesting about the value class is, yes, there was that overlap, but if you dive beyond just that overlap, we had a pickup truck that was also a hybrid. We had a crossover that was also a hybrid. We had a gas-powered crossover. We had an off-road crossover. We had a sports sedan. We had a luxury sedan, which were basically the same car. So it was really a diverse mix of cars that covered, a much larger gamut of the current market, better than any other category, save maybe the EVs themselves.
And we should say too, and I sort of introed it this way, right? Value in our mind, I mean, value means a lot of things, but like we set a price cap on value, a hard price cap of $40,000 on value, and you guys are absolutely free to let us know whether or not you think that's appropriate or not. We had a lot of conversations about whether or not a value price cap could be $30,000, which feels like, still to me, I think that something that's $30,000 or under feels like it has the the raw material for a better value. I mean, it costs less.
Right.
I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But these days, with average transaction prices approaching the mid $40,000, like 40,000 is actually a pretty reasonable and realistic cap. So that's where we started.
Cars are getting damn expensive.
Absolutely.
That's what it came down to. And 40,000 was a good number. I think that we
were able to get a lot of really high quality vehicles for under 40 grand.
Yeah.
That that would serve a variety of purposes. You know, as Brandon said, we had some great family style crossovers, some really cool sporty cars for young people or young at heart, you know, stuff like that. So it was a good place for us to kind of like cap it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's give them the list, right? Like, what's on
Sure.
the list for value this year?
So the list is the Honda Civic Si, the Acura Integra A-Spec technology, the Subaru Forester Wilderness, the Honda CR-V EXL, the Kia Sportage Hybrid SX Prestige, and last but not least, the Ford Maverick XLT Hybrid.
Solid list, very diverse. That should answer our friend Clairvoyant 13 Pal 13 asks, which cars will we cover?
Yeah.
There you have
Not
it.
that clairvoyant if you had to ask.
And then our old pal Jonathan Brown is back saying, hey guys, Motor One rules. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Let us know what you think of our discussion today. You're a great commenter, so please keep them coming. And then Richard Bilton wants to know, I have a 20 to 22 GR86. Where does it rank? What year is your GR86? Because that's a range right there. So let's talk about that maybe in performance. We can answer Richard Bolton's question.
Should we start
Hilton.
talking about the most affordable car in value or the most expensive car in value?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Top to bottom.
You're
Let's
sitting
do
there with a
top to
laptop.
Top to bottom.
Top to bottom. So
So that would be the Kia Sportage Hybrid, right?
Is it the
What was the
Sportage?
Integra?
Or
What
is
was-
it Sportage or the Integra?
Sportage was 38 and change.
So
the one that we had, right? And of course we, we're not entirely limiting our brains to thinking about just the vehicles that we have here, but we also wanted to invite the trims that we thought were most representative of that vehicle, the one that we've driven over the course of the year. Right?
real quick, Clairvoyant has a retort for you.
Fire away. Fire away.
Clairvoyant knew it. They just wanted confirmation. So
Very good.
yeah, clearly. And she knew that you were gonna. They knew that you were going to have a retort as well. So they had one ready to go.
Cool
Anyway,
story, bro.
yeah.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah. So it was the top was either Sportage or Tegra, right? Integra.
Yeah, and we don't have the Monronis directly in front of us, but yes,
Yeah.
they were both in the very, those were the two at the top of the range, and they were relatively quite close to each other.
Sure.
Yeah.
the $38,000 price range for the Sportage is almost fully loaded for that SUV.
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yep.
Full
And
hybrid powertrain,
all-wheel drive,
all-wheel drive, fancy
All the goodies.
interior. Like it's
yeah,
basically
gorgeous interior.
everything you can get on that car for under 40 grand, which is a really good value.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the hybrid is a really great choice in the Sportage lineup because the base engine is an okay base engine, but it can feel a little anemic and a little wheezy.
Mhm.
The hybrid, not only does it have the electric power, it's also a 1.6 turbo instead of a naturally aspirated 4. So you have a little more torque coming from the turbo. So it's a really like, whenever people are talking about buying new SUVs, the Sportage hybrid is always like one of my go-tos. It's just like, it does everything that the base car does, only it gets better fuel economy and is more powerful. So
Well, the interesting thing with me when I was driving that is the electric motor and the gas engine are so beautifully integrated, and the gas engine is so refined that a lot of the time I wasn't sure just where the power was coming from. I had to pull up the power meter on the instrument cluster to see just what was moving me along, because it is very, very difficult to spot the handoff from gas to electric. Unless you're really heavy on the accelerator pedal, you don't really hear the gas engine. It's an extremely refined vehicle.
Well, it's kind of unusual because it's one of the few hybrids on the market that has an actual geared transmission. It's got a 6-speed automatic transmission. So when you are dipping into that gasoline power, it feels very natural. Doesn't feel like you're just kind of pinning the red line and staying there. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, we're just like, listen, Brandon was listing them, right? And there are plenty of other vehicles out there too that are kind of this new generation of hybrid. I think like for many years, people hear the word hybrid and they think about a Toyota Prius, right? And Toyota Prius is really wonderful in its own right, but it's always been a fuel economy play. And I think what we're seeing now is hybrid as more of a drivability play.
Yeah.
Certainly it's fuel economy too, but the electric motor is being used to fill torque. Like it's making it a
Well,
little bit more fun to drive.
this is exactly the discussion we had when we were talking about trucks a few days ago
Sure,
with the Toyota Tundra, which is very much that power play
right.
versus economy play, which you get in another one of the best value cars, the Ford Maverick.
Yeah, very true. So let's keep it moving right along. The next most expensive was the Integra, right? So we have the A-Spec technology package 6MT Integra.
The only way to fly with the 6MT.
That's true. Yeah, that's the only way you can get the manual transmission.
Again, almost fully loaded for that car.
Yeah.
I think there's a few options that you
I
can
they're
get
mostly
close to
dealer
40.
installed.
Yeah, I think it's all
Dealer
accessories.
installed.
I think it's all.
For 36 grand for a compact luxury car, like it's hard to beat that.
This was the conversation. I'm stealing your points. One of the points that you made yesterday.
Yeah, I do all the work.
was that one way of looking at it is a very impressively equipped and very inexpensive luxury sedan.
Yeah, and that was the reason, I did a lot of the legwork in setting up these categories and what vehicles were participating in. I made a point of putting the Honda sorry, that was a Freudian slip there.
Sure.
Putting the Acura in not only the best value category where I firmly believe it belongs, but in the best luxury category where I think it put up a hell of a fight for what it is.
Sure.
Yeah, compared to something like a base or even like a mid-spec Audi A3 or BMW 2 Series Grand Coupe, which is a car that still exists.
It really
the Integra
shouldn't.
is really nice inside. It's really comfortable, really nice. You get some of the Honda stuff, but I don't think that's super offensive like a lot of companies.
A lot of good stuff, right?
Yeah,
that
it's
you
all
like
good
if
stuff.
it's in a cheaper car as well, right?
Yeah. So I like the Integra a lot as like a really entry level sort of luxury sedan.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I mean, this applies to the SI as well, but because I co-sign all of that, right, about Integra. I also think on a more emotional level, I like the design a lot. I think that it looks really great. At heart, for me, it's a reasonably lightweight, incredibly nimble, fun to drive car with a fantastic manual transmission. And what I get as a result of getting the manual transmission is almost not irrelevant, but less important to me, right? So as a driver's car, I still think that it's a kind of a dying breed, honestly, And so I really, really appreciate that it's out there, and I think that it's it's really good to have wonderful options like in that price zone with a lot of refinement. Not just the interior too, by the way. The drive is pretty refined too. The suspension is very subtle, and I think that over a diverse array of roads that we've had it on out here, it proved itself really well.
So, yeah, one of the big upgrades you get over the Civic Si is that adaptive suspension.
Right,
for
exactly.
An extra $3,000. I think it's worth it. I mean, having driven both of them, kind of on the same roads, there's an obvious difference in ride quality when you have the Integra in comfort versus just the fixed suspension of the Civic Si. Which the Civic Si is still pretty good, but the Integra definitely ups it to luxury or premium levels, I think.
Well, I mean, I think that's all well and good, and I appreciate the extra hardware, but I think the real reason to step up to the Integra over Civic Si specifically is the extra comfort equipment that you get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Seth and I both live in Michigan, and it's just getting to be pretty chilly there.
77 degrees today.
It's colder.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was 48 degrees in Southern California and 77 degrees in Michigan.
We just had to crank the heat in this house because it's been so cold.
The last days of November Gulf.
I know.
Last days of November Gulf.
Sorry, keep going.
But
it will be very cold in Michigan.
Yes.
This isn't a prediction. This
But-
is a promise.
But the Honda Civic Si is not available with heated seats.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
And that is just one of the
super dumb.
Yes, it is. It is very, very dumb. But that's one of the very good reasons to consider the Acura.
Absolutely.
That is the thing that you can get. You can get a digital instrument cluster, which Seth hates. You can get a larger infotainment display. Correct?
You get the
You get dual zone climate control, which
one
is
of
nice.
the best OEM sound systems.
You get a fantastic ELS Studio 3D.
Nailed it.
Look at me with
Nailed
brand
it.
names. Yes, the excellent ELS Studio 3D audio system. And you get a lift back.
Yeah.
Right.
The
So-
practicality is great.
I mean, so it and you can get a lift back in the Civic, but not in the SI trim.
Yes,
Yep.
So Acura, I mean, they yes, it is expensive, but and yes, you can criticize that it's just a Civic Si, but it really does bring a lot of its own gear to the table.
Yeah.
I will absolutely say that, like, coming into this week, before all the discussions we had, like, I was a lot more cynical about the Integra value prop versus the SI.
It was one of the cars I was least excited to drive.
As you drive them both and sort of understand the real world differences and talk about the everything that you're able to get, it does start to make more sense.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I think another way to look at it might be if everything that you can get on the Integra was available on the SI, how expensive would you spec your SI?
And it would
You know what I
probably
mean?
be about $35,000.
They would come damn close.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way of building that segment or building those vehicles within the Honda family. I suppose. So.
Absolutely. We got a bunch of comments. Clairvoyant Pal asks, yet another question that they should probably know the answer to. What do we think about car prices? Will they continue to go up next year, or will they remain around the same?
Your name is Clairvoyant. You're asking me about next year. Come on.
I think we could probably answer this one really quick. They're trending up. They're probably going to be trending up for a while, especially as a lot of automakers have started discontinuing their base model cars. Honda only sells an LX model in the HRV now. You can no longer get a Civic LX. Kia just announced that they were discontinuing the EV6 Wind. Was that the base?
Really?
The base EV6 has been
The single motor one?
I think so. Yeah. So
Is Hyundai doing it too?
I think they're discontinuing the lower power
I think
motor.
you can
still get a single motor.
Oh,
but it's
with
not
the
like
larger,
160
the standard is in the battery size.
Sure.
That's what it is.
Sure. So yeah, I think we can probably assume that car prices are going to trend up next year, unfortunately.
I think that there are a couple things that are happening. One is obviously because of essentially COVID-related production constraints that have spiraled. There was a supply problem for a long time, which caused car prices, both in the used and the new market, to go up. Right. Yeah. Automakers were seeing this, and I think that they were scrambling to fix the problem on the ground in the last couple of years. But as a result of understanding that, they're changing their strategies, and they're sort of seeing like, all right, where is our real bottom line these days?
Yeah. And
where can cars also last longer, people drive them longer, used residuals are going up, and all of that is really from the bottom up driving prices.
Yeah.
Well, cars are more economical too. People are insulated from high gas prices.
The other thing I guess that like I would only say is like the next couple of years I can see prices going up. What I predict might happen though is somebody is going to come into the space and be like, hey, Jeff can't actually afford a $46,000 car, right? So I'm going to offer a $22,000 car that's very compelling, and it will start to potentially drive some of those prices down too. So I still think the macro trend is the macro trend is always prices go up.
Yeah.
But I do think that you will probably see some movement in the next couple of years. Cars take 5 to 7 years to develop, including the marketing for that there might eventually be a little bit more of a bounce. What's the opposite of a bounce back? It'd be a push down. I don't know.
I talked to a plant manager here in the U.S., one of the major auto manufacturers, and they told me that they don't think they'll get back on track with COVID-related, delays until at least mid next year, which means I've heard have to wait even longer to like get the cars moving from those, and it's still, we're still seeing delays from other places.
I don't remember which manufacturer. It was Honda. It was Honda and Acura. I'm actually not going to attribute it to them because I don't remember the exact statistic, but they were saying that they were anticipating that they were going to get to 75% of normal mid next year. And that's not even correcting for, that's not a full correction. That's only 75%. And we're still going to wait almost a full year for it.
It's crazy how much, they were affected. But.
Yeah. So yeah, probably assume they're going to go up. Jonathan Brown says, I think the 40 grand performance value is the Nissan Z, and I don't disagree. I think it's a pretty cool car.
Yeah. I haven't driven it. I mean, we
it was eligible, and
we wanted to have Z
Yeah.
involved and
It was going to be for best performance. Unfortunately, like a few other automakers, they just didn't have any vehicles available for some of the production constraints that you're just mentioning. We happened to do that, not to get inside baseball, but we happened to do this while they were shifting over from pre-production cars that were at the launch program to full production models, which will be in service for the next year. And it's unfortunate timing.
Yep. But I do agree that for $40,000 you get what is it, 400 even.
You did the
400
drive program,
horsepower
don't
even.
me.
I loved it, and we drove. They let us drive the base car, and it was 99% as fun to drive as the top spec, and $10,000 cheaper.
Yeah.
So, and then again, Jonathan says that he thinks the average car price sold in the U.S. is actually $52,000, and I think I've heard that it's finally crested 50. That might have just been a month though. I think it was like the ATP for like the month of September.
Yeah, because there was big news when it crested 40, and that was less than a year ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that we were
earlier this year,
tracking and
actually.
checking in on as we were like arranging Star Wars and arranging the value category. So it was climbing for sure every month. In my mind, it was 46 was the last number that I heard. But
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar.
I think it was like a single month, a very specific time period. It did crest 50,000.
Gotcha.
NP says it is 95 degrees in Brisbane, Australia, and I think we'd all really like to be there.
want to go to the Gold Coast right now.
Yeah.
I can get behind that.
We're gonna do Star Wars next year, either in what was it, the south of France or Brisbane,
We
Australia?
said Nice.
Nice would be good.
Nice, France, or Brisbane, Australia.
Yeah.
What are one
I
Star
forgot
Wars?
his name, but if the commenter has a large house and would like to host, we'd love to.
Yeah, there you have it. NP, if you 20 of America's best cars in your driveway for a full
Man,
week.
yeah.
The logistics was hell getting these here. I can't imagine shipping them all to Sydney
Let's do it
or
anyway.
Brisbane or wherever. Hey.
Back to the topic at hand.
Oh, sure.
Very familiar name, Noah Thanos.
Who's that guy?
I don't know. That's kind of it sounds familiar to me. I haven't seen him in 4 days though. So, does the fact that the manual is only available in the top spec Integra color your perception of its value? And I'm going to take this one. I think yes, because I would absolutely kill. I don't necessarily need the ELS, but I would kill for a heated seat, hatchback, manual transmission Integra for $33,000.
My question is, they have the Civic Si. I want to hear from like an accurate product planner on why you went ahead and engineered the CVT to work with the SI's powertrain and package it the way you did. I don't understand why the SI is manual only, but then the Integra
CVT on the Integra.
Yeah, I don't understand the logic there. Why not both?
They will tell you on that front that they think that the manual customer is also going to be the fully loaded customer. They don't see a lower trim.
So why
with a manual?
So why not? I mean, so what's the mix then? I mean, I'm trying to understand the business case.
Very low manual. It's got to be.
Early on, the early sales, it was like 75% were choosing the manual.
True believers who wanted a new Integra for a long time.
Right, but I mean, what I want to understand, I want to understand the decision-making process that came about that resulted in four trims with the CVT and one with the manual, and the top spec only with the manual.
A cynical part of me thinks that that Honda brass wouldn't let them build a cheap Integra manual because they didn't want to cannibalize.
That is a conspiracy theory that I prescribe to.
No, I think that's correct. I would also like to say, although this is not vindication, I've been talking to Hunter Acura. I've said for a long time that I think it makes sense for automakers who make enthusiast cars, as opposed to deleting manuals altogether, charge a premium for them.
Yeah.
Because if you really want it, you will pay for it.
Sure.
And I would rather have the option to pay for it than not have the option at all.
So my concern
appreciate in that regard. I would also rather have a $33,000 version of the Integra.
My thing is, and I'm an economist, but I wonder what kind of manufacturing complexity, what kind of additional overhead and like additional configurations come into play because you look at an automaker like Ford, where the goal with every new product they launch is to reduce the number of configurations on any vehicle that isn't a truck.
Sure.
100%.
And that's because you just bolster profit margins. You have that economy of scale.
Sure.
Yep.
So I'd be very curious to hear the argument against what you're saying. Beyond that, because I agree with it. I think it makes sense. I think it's a way, because there's always going to be a subset of consumer that wants a manual transmission.
We all expect to pay more for like the more powerful engine.
Yep.
Right.
Sure.
And it's not necessarily because the more powerful engine costs more to build in every case, right? But it's because the expectation is that there's real value associated with that for people, so people will pay more for it. And I guess that this is just an extension of that, right?
Just kind of like a philosophical value.
Absolutely, yeah. But it's also just like it's market forces. Like people will pay more for it.
Sure,
right?
totally. Yeah. Great question, Noah. I miss you. I will see you tomorrow.
I know.
Clairvoyant again. Watching this from Greece. Thank you for covering the latest automotive news. Number one site of the world. Your work don't get unnoticed. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Clairvoyant. That is very nice of you to say. Thank you for tuning in and for all your comments. Keep them up. Jonathan Brown. I'm going to gloss over this one because we are talking a lot. Best performance sedan value is the much underrated Alpha. I think you mean Giulia. No adjusted dealer market value. I leased an Alpha Stelvio TI Sport for my bride 3 years with total reliability, and the Italian delivers true passion. Giulia or Stelvio. Alpha's false wrap on reliability, in my experience, gave back the lease at the end of the 3 years, yet it was a great driving experience. Not the fastest, etc., but the driving experience was fabulous. Question for the group. Do you expect the Chinese EV products to flood the market and actually force pricing for all manufacturers back down from today's high as supply of vehicles in Europe and USA? Let's answer this question in 1 minute. Will Chinese vehicles drive prices down in the United States?
I think that Chinese vehicles are penetrating Chinese EVs specifically are penetrating Western Europe, Eastern Europe, and then into Western Europe right now. I think that it's all but inevitable that China's been marshaling its forces to build EVs much longer than the US has. I think that their Chinese companies have gotten a lot of a head start from joint ventures. And the short answer is yes, but I don't think it's going to happen quite as soon as possible. We have yet to see somebody really like break the dam in terms of hitting the North American market in a way that's meaningful.
They've been talking so long about bringing Chinese cars in general.
BYD was planning on bringing a car to the United States in 2009.
There's still
I was just going to say a BYD
for the GAC.
Oh yeah,
like if you get on the maglev that runs through the Delta terminal in Detroit, there are still advertisements for the GAC F9 or some sort of van.
Come see it at the 2016 Detroit Auto Show.
There was a long stretch of time in the 2010s where there were always Chinese EV or Chinese brands, not necessarily EVs, parked in the basement of Kobo.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
even if they do make it, though, I don't know that it's going to lead to really significant price decreases across the market, because the South Korean automakers did that 20 years ago. They came out with a Kia Sophia that was an $8,000 car, and you still could buy a Ford Escort for $11,000. It's not like the establishment cut prices to match, because they felt like they had a quality or a value proposition. And I don't necessarily think that just because there's a cheaper car in the market, unless it does the job exactly as well, I don't think it's going to.
Well, I think
push prices down.
is going to be a big name, right, in Chinese EVs, and they own Polestar and they own Volvo and they have Lynk & Co, a few other like EV brands that I think they could be the first to really make an impact in the US. But even then, we haven't seen them do really anything significant. So.
It's true. All right, let's move on. We just got done talking Integra. Now we're down to it would either be CRV or Forester, I think.
Yeah,
Forester.
Let's talk about Forester. Jeff?
I love the Forester. The Forester, I think I'm the only one here that really like has a fondness for this Forester Wilderness. It is a Forester with 9.2 inches of ground clearance, rugged fenders, crazy
cool roof
rails, gold accents, like super tough wheels. Like I drove that thing up.
Super tough.
Super tough.
That's a brand name.
I drove it up it wasn't Mount Hood, but in Oregon they have like the mountain. You can drive up the like that
Rainier?
was maybe I don't know, but that
I
was a
know,
lot
like,
of
two
fun,
mountains
and
in
I
Oregon.
really loved that car, and I scored it really highly, and then I kind of got my colleagues kind of let it like they didn't like it.
I
Wow,
really like
wow,
the Forester.
Yeah,
Wow.
throw us under
Wow.
the bus.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying.
geez.
I feel like
I'll sign my name to that one. I don't love the Forester Wilderness. I think it's I understand why people do love it, and I like the personality. It's fun. I love that blue. I think it's so cool that they when they did it. They said it's World Rally blue, but without the metal flake, and I love that. I think it's really cool. But I just think that it's lacking a little bit in refinement. I think you get better options for about the same amount of money. But it does have personality. So there's something to go for.
I struggle with it because that particular so let me say what I like. I love the detailing on Subaru's Wilderness products.
Yeah.
I love that there's little goldish copper accents everywhere and badging and like stitching in the headrest and like tags on the seats, and it's so well done. It's so well detailed. And as I always firmly believe that detailing makes a good car.
Yeah.
What I struggle with is, especially less so in the case of the Outback Wilderness, but in the case of the Forester Wilderness, is that is very well treaded territory, and it is in a segment at a price point where there is the Bronco Sport Badlands and the Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk and the Jeep Compass Trailhawk, and those are some really great rugged off-road vehicles that, frankly, I'd feel more comfortable pushing into the Wilderness than a Subaru Wilderness.
I took it off roading a little bit when I had it for a week, and I really enjoyed it. It was like a fun, kind of like a fun car camping vehicle. It felt like it would be really fun to just kind of hoon down a little dirt road on the way to like an established campground. But insofar as like off-roading is concerned, I feel like there might be some different options.
It's definitely like this maybe is underselling a little bit, but it's in service to the huge number of Subaru fans out there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if you are an existing Subaru owner, or if you're somebody who kind of prescribes to the fact that Subaru is a really successful lifestyle brand in the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
They've gone from producing cars that nobody cared about to producing cars that were sort of underground, amazingly built, like incredibly reliable, really rugged all-wheel drive cars, to being like, dare I say it, like very mainstream, super successful, mostly crossovers, right? Like crossovers and wagons. And so I think something like the Wilderness speaks to those roots and those people, the people who really want to go outdoors. Is it the most successful off-roader? No. Is it a vehicle that works really well for a great number of people who also have a really active lifestyle? I would say, yeah.
Well, and Subaru is really, really aware that like cars, they do more active ownership, like both in terms of like people who love their cars and more loyal, and also just their level of activity. And everything that they do on the Wilderness, everything they do on all their cars is designed for like to let you do your adventures. So like the roof rails on the Wilderness are, and on the Outback specifically, are heavier, like a heavier load rating and everything like that, because they know their customers want to be able to put massive cargo racks and stuff like that up there and go on long camping trips. So like they know their brand, they know exactly who they're marketing to, and you got to give them credit for that.
I guess I should say that I have owned 2 Subarus, and my sister has a Subaru, so maybe I have a little bit of bias.
You have some skin in the game.
Yeah,
But
My brother totaled my parents' Subaru.
really?
Yeah.
It's still a charmer, It's a great, whether you have skin in the game, it's a charmer.
Yeah,
little
absolutely,
SUV.
yeah.
Honda CRV.
Honda CRV.
Wait, actually, really quick. Once again, from Noah Thanos, how does Kia's X-Pro line compare to the Wilderness? And I don't know the answer to that question.
It's like a fraction of what Wilderness can do.
X-Pro's styling only.
X-Pro. It's mostly styling. There's a little bit of a lift. I just drove the Sportage X-Pro like 3 weeks
Is
ago.
the lift an actual suspension lift, or is it like just a different tire?
That's a good question. It's a different tire. It is a chunkier tire.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
So
probably
that might
where
be-
the extra
that
ride
might-
comes from.
And then they have roof rails, but it's very like a soft roading package for like a Sportage, which is cool. And I think it's probably what.
It's probably going to be a pretty popular option.
It's going to be pretty popular.
Excellent,
but
or whatever.
The Wilderness is a genuinely capable little SUV, I think, whereas X Pro is kind of soft roading.
It's a little more cynical. I haven't driven it, but like based on the specs. Right?
Yeah.
JDubs07 agrees, saying that I don't think Kia's X Pro lineup is ready for prime time. They don't even include the terrain modes in the US that they have in other markets. That's fair.
Come on, Kia.
All right, moving on. CRV,
CRV.
the quintessential family value SUV.
Sales champ, or one of the top selling vehicles in the US, like all the time. And we had a lot of conversation about whether or not I think Honda went far enough with this new CRV, right? Like, is it enough of an evolution from a very successful vehicle? And I think where we came down is, for me anyways, one of the reasons that Honda is successful is because they sometimes take a conservative approach to these things. They have a lot wrapped up in perception and actual reliability, the resale value that is a result of that too. So for something like CRV, we've seen this before with Civic. We've seen it go both ways with Civic, really. We've seen them take a conservative approach successfully, and we've seen them take a conservative approach and have it really like in the face. I really like the CRV. I think that it's refined in a subtle way. I think that it's harder to point to the features that are like either value driven or that offer special value versus the competitive set. But I'll also say that this is the most competitive set in the world right now, certainly in North America. What they've done, I think, will speak to people who are current owners. I'm not sure that they've done enough to get a ton of new people into the brand, but I also haven't driven the hybrid, which might be a little bit more of a, although you have now. So Brett might be less convinced that that's the magic formula for them.
It's not quite as successful in the transition from gas to hybrid as like the Sportage. Yeah, I think that you lose out a little bit in like highway drivability, but you do gain a lot in like everyday city usability, which is wonderful because of that electric motor that has just instant torque. So one thing that I love about the CRV is the old one. I didn't really care for the styling of it. I know it's very functional and like a very good SUV. I think that they've done a really good job of, and they did it with too, of maybe not quite as distinctive looking, but much more like mature and much cleaner styling and much more. So I think that their current owners are going to be inclined to grow with the CRV and kind of like
the styling direction of Honda in general, to me, with the Civic and with the CRV and even with the new Accord that we saw today, is kind of like, I don't think they really have I feel like the previous gen cars were a little more defined as Honda products, at least to me. Like, I think the previous Accord looked really great. I think this new Accord looks interesting, but it doesn't have a definition. And the CRV sort of has the same problem where it's just generic SUV. Like, it looks clean, it looks nice, but it doesn't really strike me as anything other than kind of a generic thing.
It feels like a generic car that you would see in like a commercial. Like they can't use an actual production vehicle for licensing reasons.
They changed the badge.
Or it's a Grand Theft Auto
lightning
car.
bolts.
I don't love the exterior styling, but I actually 100% disagree with you. I think that this is kind of the tightest family look that they've had in a really long time.
I will agree with that.
HRV, CRV, Civic, I just saw the lead photo of the new Accord, so I haven't dived into that one, but I think that they've really tightened up the exterior styling. Another thing that occurs to me too is we do get, geez, I'm so sorry, you guys, my voice is gone.
He's been yelling at us all week.
Yeah, completely. We get a little jaded too. I think that there was do you think it's fair to say that there was not universal, but like a lot of praise when the current Civic debuted, at least for the interior styling?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think what we've seen is like they've executed that idea across all of their products, and it's less impactful with CRV, which debuted later, than it was on Civic.
I think what they're doing in general, and I still kind of stand by what I say, but I do think this is the most unified Honda design has been in a long time, is they found a thing that works and they are just relentlessly executing it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing they've been doing in the way that the cars drive and perform every day. They're just extending it to the design.
Right.
And I'll wholly admit it doesn't do much for me.
I don't like the exterior design either, but I think I really do like the
the interior is fantastic. I think everything's very good. the weird thing that struck me about the interior that I was so happy about is, for the longest time, this is dating back to 2006. Every CRV I got into, if you just tap the shifter, it kind of jiggled. Like all the bits jiggled on it.
Yeah.
This one is tight as a timpani drum.
Rock solid.
And it's great. I'm so happy to see that.
I think maybe my issue is that, like, especially when we have Sportage side by side with CRV,
Sure.
where you're like, Sportage is this wild, radical design that you're either gonna love or hate, and
more emotional.
I
right?
think it's so much more interesting. Then you look at CRV, you're like, okay, it looks fine, interesting. You know?
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
Let's blitz our last value specific car,
I know
because we have gone into some deep territory.
Yeah,
Okay,
we were talking about the Chinese EV penetration.
I know this has been a great conversation.
Viewers, please try to stay on topic. Jeez.
Let's wrap
Excuse
up
me.
this particular comment. JDubs07 again says the new Accord has an extreme lack of design inspiration. The sides are so plain, and there are no interesting features on any side. The taillights, which make me think of an old stock for some reason. I love that. I'm gonna steal that because I love that. I'm gonna disagree with haters on the new Accord because Kyle and I saw it a couple of days ago, and I think that they've done a really good job of like keeping some of the fastback design. The ducktail spoiler alone is worth the cost of entry for me. But let's move on to our final value specific car and talk about the Ford Maverick Hybrid XLT.
Yeah.
Talk to me, Goose.
What's that?
Talk to me, Goose.
I love that truck. I'm just gonna get the ball rolling and say that I love the Maverick so much. They've made inexpensive feel very cool, and the hybrid specifically. I wish you could get it with all-wheel drive. If you could get the hybrid with all-wheel drive, it'd be my perfect daily driver.
I will eat the shoe that I'm wearing that doesn't show up in the next few years.
It's got to happen, right?
It's got to happen.
Ford
that
makes
was on camera. You just
Ford
said that.
makes a compact hybrid with all-wheel drive already, so it has to happen eventually.
I'll just call it, say it's a deep fake or something.
Anyway, so I love the Maverick. In
It's-
1 minute each, what do you guys think about the Maverick?
I think that it does in a million times before. It is literally, bar none, no question about it, the best cheaply executed cabin on the market. It is.
Agreed.
It has the color, it has the texture, it has the
Yep.
shapes that make it interesting and allow you to ignore that everything is the cheapest plastic that Ford could possibly conjure.
It's the exact same cheap plastic that we saw in the 2020 Escape,
Yep.
but just
If it were,
rendered
painted
so much more
painted
beautiful.
bronze, it'd be a Kardashian.
I love the Maverick. It's great. It's great to
Hi, Brad.
drive. Cabin's comfy. Like, I don't know. It's hard to hate that thing.
First of all, it's really funny to me the whole cheap plastic thing, because it's like this is an automotive journalist thing.
It
but
really
I know.
is.
presumably
There's
it's a real
There's a Reddit thread,
thing
people.
too.
There's a Reddit thread.
It's a real person thing too, where like I mean,
I don't need my
Ford was-
dashboard to be soft.
no. What
but-
my whole point is like, Ford was like, hey, everybody hates these cheap plastics, but what if we actually think about making them look cool? And they'll
It's
still
really-
be cheap, but
Yeah.
we'll spend some money up front on the design. Like,
Yeah.
And
it's so simple. It's completely.
I
brilliant,
wonder
you know?
if that's the problem. Like if all along we don't auto journalists as the royal we of these jaded
Yeah.
souls. Our issue wasn't that the materials themselves were cheap or hard. It's that they
No.
were just so
There was a
dull.
lack of imagination,
Dull
right?
and
Like,
shiny.
same thing over and over again.
Yep.
But,
Let designers do fun stuff. That's the moral.
Massive credit to the Maverick for that then.
The big thing for me on Maverick, like this is going back to day one, was day one of us being here, not day one of the Maverick.
Which, by the way, one feels like 25 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found more gray hairs in my beard
Oh,
just
no.
earlier today
Oh, rough.
that were not here.
Day one when I was singing opera and you were all crying. It was amazing.
Mhm.
And now look at me. I'm a shell of myself. Speaking of sound, The NVH in the Maverick is incredible. It's way better
Really,
than I expected it to
really
be.
good for the
way
segment.
better ride quality than I expected, and the refinement, the NVH in the cabin is really amazing.
Mhm.
Not just for a truck, not just for something that's $25,000, but really like amongst the great vehicles that we have here today, one of the quieter cabins that we have, and the fact that it's top half at 25 grand is
cheapest
incredible.
car we have in this test, and
Yes.
it's solidly one of the more comfortable.
Lest we repeat it too much. 40 miles per gallon.
40
It's 42 miles per
silly.
gallon. Yeah.
Silly.
Silly.
42 miles per gallon. Silly.
42 miles.
If you live in LA, you get 42 miles to the gallon. If you live in Detroit, you probably get a little bit less than that.
Right,
But
right.
All right, so let's go to the bridge between value and performance. The Honda Civic Si. We've already touched on it a little bit when we were
Yep.
discussing the Integra.
Yeah. We talked about
But let's talk performance. Let's talk Civic Si in terms of performance.
Well, we drove it on the racetrack and it was awesome. Yeah?
Yeah,
No? I'm not getting a lot of
The racetrack is
amens.
awesome.
the racetrack is great.
driving it on the racetrack was still
Jeff thinks
awesome.
It's mushy.
It's mushy. You
No,
know, like
so-
oatmeal. It's mushy.
But he can't back it up.
Jeez, and you
But he
don't make
can't
me say
Just keep
stuff.
saying it like he's broken.
We,
It's-
So here's the problem.
I'm gonna go get some duct tape. I'll be right back.
This is a thing that we learned. Like, we really need to do the road drive for the performance vehicles
Yeah.
before the track drive. I up until last night, when I was not on the podcast, you'll note, I felt the exact same way as Jeff. And then since I wasn't on the podcast, the team sent me to get pizza for everybody, and I drove like my hair was on fire, trying to get to the pizza joint, retrieve the pies, bring back, and serve them to my colleagues here before they went on air.
Thank you. You
Benevolent.
failed.
I failed. So I stood in there for an hour waiting for them to finish before I got out pizza.
That was
But
dumb.
the moral of the story is
Should have
that
just eaten.
that drive dark on a mountain road completely changed my tune on the Civic
Yeah.
Si. I, for everything that I didn't like about it on the track, it made up for it on a canyon
Yeah.
road, and it was an absolutely sublime drive. It smells like pizza in the car.
Yeah.
It does.
really does.
We're gonna apologize to Honda for
You're
that. for
welcome,
sure.
Honda.
Yeah,
That's what I
exactly.
mean.
Yeah.
But it's
Kyle's
just
pizza that had
hard-
onions on it.
It's hard to justify. I mean, it's not hard to justify because it's definitely more affordable. But like when you drive it back to back with like the Elantra N, it's hard to be like, this Civic is great. The Elantra is.
You know,
Two things can be true, Jeff.
I've
A Civic can be great, and an
Yeah.
Elantra can also be
I've
great.
just been
Right.
thinking about the difference between, and this I'm gonna butcher this a little bit, and you're gonna be really upset by it. The difference between the Civic Si and the Elantra N is the difference between a Miata and a Mustang GT convertible. That's what it feels like to me.
I don't even know what
I
you
don't
mean.
follow, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, one feels light and sporty and flingable, and the other is just like, I'm gonna go fast and make loud noises. I'm gonna be pretty good doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Elantra N is wonderful and really sharp, both on the track and on the road.
Yeah.
And kind of a maniac in a way that I appreciate.
Yeah.
And I think that the Civic Si is kind of buttery smooth and really progressive. And it's not as kind of chuckable, I guess, is the Reddit auto Reddit phrase that I would get in trouble for.
Is that one of them? Chuckable?
I don't know. I didn't actually read the list.
It tracks though. It probably would be.
It's probably on there.
I think the SI is really subtle, and I think that in a category like performance, where subtle isn't something that most people are seeking out, it's not as desirable. But I think that the Honda SI has always been a very rational performance car.
Well,
right?
That's kind of my thinking of it. Like the current SI is a little bit down on power versus the previous one, but it has a flatter torque curve. It's a little bit more easy.
How much power is it down on?
5.
Right.
Yeah,
5
I'm,
But like, and this,
I'm putting a moratorium on this argument because it's 5
No,
horsepower and it
that's
makes
what I'm
more
saying.
torque.
exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like when people only focus on, oh, it's got less power than the previous one, they're ignoring the fact that it has more torque, that it has a stiffer body shell.
This guy.
It has
didn't
more
say
torque.
that.
It has
What
You,
is that?
yes, I edited it out of your first try.
I think I was just stating
No,
factually
you-
that it had
oh,
less
no.
power.
That
not
it was
that
like it was
underpowered.
in the lead. It was in the lead.
I kind of find myself. The first car that I drove yesterday on the track was the Civic Si, and I did that very deliberately because I knew everything else was going to shade it really hard. And I loved it. Being my first time out on that track in that car, it was so much fun. And the shifter alone is worth the cost of entry. Like, it's
So
a
good.
brilliant manual transmission, one of the best in the industry. It's a great little, and it's $5,000 less than the Elantra N. You do get a lot of car when you spend that extra $5,000, but if you are limited to a budget of 28 grand, you shouldn't feel bad that you have to settle for a Civic.
Yeah, and I should say that like I think I was the one who rated it really highly. Like in
We
a
all like it.
vacuum,
We all like it a lot.
in a
yes.
vacuum, that car is really, really good. But my problem was like driving it back to back with the Elantra, and I don't want to like anger people, but even like the Elantra N line to me has a little bit more like rigidity and handling that's a little tighter and like
You're entitled to your own wrong opinion.
I know, but it's tough.
I think it also bears mentioning that, and I just realized this because I'm a little bit slow after a week of all of this, but the Civic Si was the second cheapest car we had here.
Yeah.
And it stood up to a $75,000 400 horsepower Audi and a $910,000 CT5V Blackwing.
Yeah.
And it didn't wow us in quite the same way, but once we got on the mountain roads, it made a strong case for itself against much more expensive vehicles.
Yeah, as a democratization of performance, like something that is within the limits of just about everybody.
Is our connection, Kyle?
Maybe. Oh, we're still going. Are you
Okay.
still there?
It's black screening me over here. There
We're
we are.
back.
Hey.
Hey.
All right.
Jonathan Brown, wave hello if you're still here. You can still see us. No, yeah, I mean the price is really important. The price is fantastically important when it comes to these sort of things.
Yeah.
But I think like on the price, in the performance category, the Honda was the smooth. Well,
It was easy
it's
to
not
jump
as
in and
smooth
go.
as the Cadillac, but it's easier to be smooth in it than
Yeah.
in the Cadillac
Yeah.
because it doesn't have 660 odd horsepower.
Sure.
Like there's that.
So let's dovetail right into the next most expensive vehicle in the category, which was the Hyundai Elantra N.
Elantra N.
Awesome car.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I mean,
Just a little hooligan of a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hyundai's N performance range has just been so damn good. Like the Veloster was the first one.
Mhm.
Veloster
In
was
the US.
first, and then the Elantra, and then the Kona, and all three of those cars are just so good. Like little firecrackers, just great engines, great transmissions. They handle so well. The interiors, I think, has been the biggest knock that a lot of people have like dinged them for, like really hard plasticies. But again, that's
But the things that matter to the driving experience, I'm
Yeah.
still one of Seth's arguments. Brett did it to me. So.
Yeah.
The things that matter to the driving experience, the seats, the steering wheel, those are really well done. I think the only real complaint we can level is that the paddle shifters are a bit uninspiring in their action.
No, but the DCT is great.
But the DCT itself is great. I'm talking
Really good.
purely the plastic
Yeah.
paddles on the back of the wheel.
Don't
They
mess
just
with them. Don't really need to.
yeah.
Right.
I honestly on the track I never even
Just
shifted
yeah,
into
just let the
manual.
thing
I
do its job on
the
its own.
DCT is very good on its own.
There's
Yeah.
like some very clear like golden age of BMW DNA in that car. Like
I wonder why.
Exactly.
I wonder
Exactly.
why.
Like the suspension tuning is. This is probably a Reddit post, but like the suspension tuning is very Teutonic and very well damped.
Teutonic was in there.
I believe
Teutonic
that to be true. It feels very German, and like for some reason, automotive journalists have decided that German cars are the pinnacle of well damped suspensions.
Yeah.
But this fits the bill. It
Brett,
does.
Would you
It's
say that the Elantra N handles like it's on rails?
Go kart like handling. Go kart like handling.
It handles like it's on rails.
We've-
but you
we've
can
been-
jump the tracks whenever you want.
We've been
That's what makes it
we've been
really fun.
consuming a lot of Reddit over the past few days, so thank you for that. Our cars.
Noah Thanos makes the comment that the Veloster, I agree 100%. The Veloster interior is about as bad as it comes in terms of hard plastic.
So
That's not
can I share my conspiracy theory?
Always.
You did yours earlier.
Veloster, not Elantra.
Oh, Veloster, not Elantra.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense. I think it applies to that one too.
Okay, lay it on us.
I think that to reach the very reasonable price that it enjoys, that Hyundai subbed in cheaper interior plastics, because I don't remember the interior in the base Elantra or the base Veloster for that reason being quite so bad as it is in the N models.
Like, the only I love a good conspiracy theory.
It's completely unfounded, and I'm
Probably
very much
untrue.
like probably untrue. My tinfoil hat is firmly down.
I think they would save $4 per car.
Maybe.
I mean, the base Elantra interior is not great. Like there is a lot of hard plastic on that dashboard. So
This just feels so much worse, though.
all right.
So I just had an inspiration. It's one of the reasons why I really like the Elantra, and I had it wrong before because I think I was saying because this was my first time driving. The first time I drove the Elantra N was, I think this is true. I don't think I drove it before it was on the racetrack. So it really surprised the hell out of me when because I thought it was going to be a lot more like a conventional sport compact than it was. I was saying that it reminded me of Mini GTP. In fact,
Of
what it
what?
reminds me of
JCWGP.
Oh, GP.
GP. Sorry, I'm adding letters. No, it reminds me a lot of the Evo 10.
Yeah.
The Evo 10
For sure.
with, like and
Just like
and
very
honestly,
sharp, very.
far
If it
more refined.
were all-wheel
Far
drive,
more refined.
if it were all-wheel drive, it would be an Evo 10.
But
There'd be a Mitsubishi back.
the same ability to be completely raw and batshit
Mhm.
crazy when you need it to be,
if
right?
anything, like the relationship between like Civic Si and I'm stretching again, between Civic Si and Elantra N is a bit like WRX and Evo.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
there are definite parallels there in how one is focused on being smooth and refined and still a great deal of fun, and one is just like, nope, screw you, we're gonna go fast and go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that's sort of damning the N a lot because I think it's like a lot more refined.
Oh, hugely more
in
refined
in every way. And a little bit less crazy, but still, I like that. I
Yeah,
like
it's
the
got
domination
just
personality of it.
it's got just the right amount of Evo, in
And it has
that makes it lovable.
It has the biggest exhaust outlets on anything that isn't like a semi.
They're like 3 inches, right?
They're big though.
What's that?
They're big.
They're only 3-inch pipes, right?
That's
you
That's
can get
good.
you can get that on an Acura RDX. They're 3-inch pipes on the A spec.
okay. Fine.
So
whatever.
So there.
Fine.
So there.
Anyway, it's a pretty cool car. Let's move on because we have 4 minutes. We have 3 minutes to cover 3 cars. So we had
Lightning round.
Oh, okay. Let's do that. Why don't you carry on?
Yeah,
Let us know. Sounding more and more like Lauren Bacall every minute.
amazing. What's
Next up on the list is the Audi RS3.
Pretty good little green car. If you like green cars,
It's very
So
green.
my God.
It's a very green
What
car.
is the name of that green? Is it mantle green?
It is Kalani green, and you want to know something great? It is a no-cost color.
Wow.
Kyalani after the racetrack in South Africa.
Presumably KYALM.
Yeah,
I love it when automakers, and this is so dumb inside baseball. I love it when automakers choose.
it's you.
Yeah.
No, we've all gone off on.
I love it
tangents.
when automakers choose a no-cost color as their like launch signature color.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
that
really
should be a
That's
rule.
so
that
happy
should be a
to me.
rule.
Yeah.
Instead of picking like a $2,000 BMW.
I don't
nonsense.
mind that. I like that. I hate when it's like we have one no cost color and every other color is a premium color.
It's like you can either
Even
get
though-
white
even though
or
it's a-
premiums.
The cost colors on the RS3 are $595, which
Yeah,
on
sure.
a $60,000 car is a rounding error. But
But it is cool. It is
It
still
is
cool
cool.
that
It's very
that
cool.
beautiful, awesome green is free of charge.
yeah.
And it carries through to the interior, the stitching and all the piping and
So
stuff.
that part is a cost option.
Oh, really?
That is part of the RS
contract
design
deal.
package, which I want to say is like $2,800, and you get an Alcantara steering wheel, and you get beautiful green contrast stitching and Alcantara strips that match the exterior. You can also get it in red if you want to be
Great.
very, very boring.
You also get the thing that I love is the little green strips on the seatbelt too.
Yeah.
Yes.
The nylon webbing.
Yes.
Just it's not the whole
Yeah.
thing, which is a little over the top, but just the edging on
Did you
it.
And
notice
just-
that even the air vents too? The
Yeah.
middle
Yeah,
strip?
Yeah.
Just
the like toggle for the air vent.
Yeah.
is
Just
wine
throwing it
green,
out there, you can get that green interior accents with black exterior paint, and it looks
Nope.
pretty great.
too. I'm solidly anti-black paint.
Oh,
Sorry about that.
You pulled up at the last possible.
I know
instant.
that was the worst possible
Wow.
time for that.
Wow.
I've been taking care of a black car for the last 3 years, and I hate it. And I'm done with black paint for the rest of my life.
Okay, you avoided cancellation like
Yeah. Well
that
done.
much.
Yeah, wow, holy
That
shit.
much.
I'm going to go ahead and retire now.
Yep.
No, let's talk about how it drives, though, because no one cares about the
It
car.
is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's dynamite. I adore the RS3 for just the sheer depth of personality that it has in its handling character. Not to get super technical, but it has a really trick rear differential that basically quells all of the understeer that has been so common in Audis for the longest time. And I mean, I think it was you, Seth, that got back from lapping yesterday and got out of the car and was like, it feels like a rear drive car.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When you put it in,
Yeah.
sorry, what's the mode? The
RS torque rear.
Well, RS torque rear is the drift mode.
drift mode. Yeah. When you put it, send all the torque to the rear. It drives. I mean, you wouldn't be able to convince me that it wasn't a rear wheel drive car if I didn't know anything else about it and I just got out of it. Absolutely incredible. I mean, fantastic powertrain. You talked about it a lot, Brandon, but the variability in what you're able to do with the car, like based on your mood, proclivity, or the road that you're on or driving on the track, is really amazing. The software programming, the drivetrain is insanely good.
The delta between like our relax and R3 at its most aggressive is I'm not sure there's another vehicle on the market that has such a wide range of personalities.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can probably name 2 things that I don't like about the car. Right?
I probably agree with you.
It's a bad steering feel.
Yep.
And the steering does feel a little bit overboosted. I'll lump those into one. I don't love that. And well, I was about to say the thing is, like, I actually don't think
It's a reasonably priced car.
I think for what you're getting,
It's a 400 horsepower car that'll get to 60 in under 4 seconds if you're good at it.
$80,000 car is not attainable for a lot of people.
Sure.
Right. So there's that. And the other cars that we were talking about, the SI and the N are very attainable for almost everybody. I think that's the downside. I do think that it's good value despite being a really expensive car. So good old, really mind-blowingly great handling on the track and on the road. Looks amazing. Great seats. I think that they've done everything really well. As long as you don't need a lot of cargo area, a big back seat, and you want a performance car, it should be higher on your list.
Which you should not carry things or people in your car.
No,
It should be purely for your own entertainment.
My resident automotive encyclopedia, Noah Thanos, has said the 5-cylinder is both direct and port injected, so it doesn't suffer from the same gummed up valves, and that's why you can make big power on stock injectors. That's an interesting tidbit. His other interesting tidbit that probably plays into why it handles so neutrally is that it has a 265 section width front tire and a 245 in the rear. So it actually has wider tires up front, which is probably break loose a little bit, which is that's kind of fun that
it's fun the way it moves around, especially under braking. I mean, I always enjoy moving it, like changing the steering.
You screw around with it because it's fun. Not
it's
like a fast line.
It's so approachable in the way that it behaves. Like that's really what does it for me.
You're absolutely right about that. That you can just jump in that car, put it in RS mode, and just flail on it, and it doesn't ever feel like it's going to bite you.
Now, well, let's talk about a car that will bite you.
Our next most expensive car on the list at $113,000 was the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing.
Yeah.
My favorite car in the history of 2022.
Really, really good. Amazing engine, incredible exhaust note. All the things that you would expect from like a car with big power rear wheel drive. But also, it does all the little subtle stuff very well too. And it's challenging. It's a really challenging car to drive smoothly and quickly at the same time. But it rewards you really well for doing it.
I had a moment on the track yesterday that I didn't have in any of the other cars, and it was at the end of a lap where I did 1 or 2 errors instead of my usual 15 or 20. And I got out of the Cadillac and my fingertips were tingling. Like I was just so overstimulated in that car that my nervous system went into shutdown mode, and it was like time for me to take a break from the car. But it was because it was so thrilling and so exciting for like 2 straight minutes.
Mhm.
And I haven't had that in many cars before, and certainly not in any of the other cars on the track yesterday.
There was a weird. We drove Willow Springs. Was it Streets?
Streets.
We drove Street. There's a really weird kind of like back straight that goes into like this slightly uphill.
It's a blind chicane,
Yeah,
which
blind
is
chicane.
kind of terrifying.
And realistically, I think we learned by the end of the day that you can just lift and go straight through it, and then hit the turn and make a left.
Mhm.
But it's blind, so you can't see what's going on. But anyways, when I drove the Blackwing on the first drive at VIR down the front straight, there's a similar sensation, and it's like so scary in that car in both situations. Where it's like you do it on the end, it's like okay, this is cool.
Yeah.
But like that car is so scary in certain situations, but it is also like so rewarding when you get it right. It's a crazy car, but it's
way too much in 90% of your driving situations. It's either too much power or too much grip or too much noise or something like that. But there are people who like performance cars because they're too much all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm probably one of them. I loved it. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I also think that there's something about, you know, I'm trying to think of it, like there aren't, GM doesn't make and hasn't made for a while a lot of really bad performance cars.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that they do really well, and partially this is down to Magnaride and having incredibly sophisticated suspension technology and understanding how to put together, wheel tire packages that work really well for their high performance cars. In addition to having brilliant high power powertrains, they know how to do really well. And it makes complete sense, and you expect it when it's Corvette, and when it's something else, when it's something like really large and heavy, like a Cadillac, you don't necessarily. But it has this kind of magic, right? Where when you're driving down the road, it still can feel pretty sinewy, and when you're driving on the track, to your point, like on that exact chicane coming up to it, like I chickened out every time, or for the first 75% of the day, and then I stopped chickening out because I was like, I think I understand what the car is going to do. I know where the road is going to go, and when you stop chickening out, you're like, what the fuck was I doing this whole time? Like I should have been going way faster all day long. You know,
you're going so fast on that back straight.
Amazing.
You're like,
it's
first
incredible.
of all, no lift shift too is another.
Oh yeah, that's so
like,
cool.
you can just,
I am never brave enough to use no lift shift.
It's terrifying.
The entire thing is like, I feel like I'm going to hurt the car.
Yeah.
And I never want to hurt a car.
Well, and it is a little bit damaging. It like is pretty much wear is a thing with no lift shift. It's literally something that you do when you need that extra.
I'm never
time.
in a situation where I need that extra time. That extra like thousandth of a second.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of fun if you ever have the opportunity once just to. It's a brilliant thing though. I think you're absolutely right at that. Like when GM decides they want to build a performance car, they build a performance. Even dating back to like the Cobalt SS. The Cobalt is a objectively terrible car.
podcast.
Welcome to hour 2.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to talk about GMSS cars at this point. No, you're completely right.
Yeah. They maybe make a few mistakes in their primary lineup, but when they do a performance car, they do it really, really well.
I've easily the strongest GM critic here, and I wholeheartedly agree. Like their performance cars are from Camaro 1LE to C8 to the V car, the Blackwing V cars.
Right. Important distinction for sure.
I mean, they are just epic. The thing that I love about the Blackwing, I'd never really played with this until I did the first drive of the Corvette Z06 earlier this year. Was performance management, which is just a wildly adjustable form of stability control that really allows you to fine tune just how the nannies step in, and it just makes you feel like a friggin' rock star.
There's not a chance in hell that I could ever drift a 663 horsepower car that effectively without performance traction management. But it was so much fun on one of the like kind of the tight hairpins at the front half of the track. it's really tight and it's banked just a little bit. And if you have the car set up right, you can just drift the entire damn thing, and
Yep.
it is so much fun.
It is a great technology, and I mean it's just epic. And then there's all the little things like you've got we don't use it, and we didn't use it because I didn't think to bring an SD card, but
The performance data
camera
recorder,
card,
yeah, that's
which
cool.
is just a camera mounted in the nose that overlays a front-facing view of what you're doing and overlays
all of
all
your
this telemetry.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's such a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great tool for becoming a better driver. I really appreciate any car that not only makes the driver feel like than they really are, but actually will help them improve.
Yeah.
That was your strongest point about the Cadillac, is that you really have to like learn how to drive it, and when you do, it's really rewarding.
Totally, yeah. Some of that is inherent to the layout, right? Front engine, big front engine, rear wheel drive is always very satisfying to get right because you're just dealing with so much weight transfer. The car does compliment you. We were talking about this a lot. Brandon made the point that the Audi is the car that makes you feel like the hero, maybe more than anything else. It's working really hard to make you go fast in a straight line. The Cadillac doesn't do that as well or as obviously, but it's still working. I mean, it's still doing a lot to help you out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're fighting inertia. You're
Right.
fighting the momentum of that big engine up front.
The car's working with you in that respect, but
Yeah.
it's not erasing the laws of physics like
That's
the
right, it's
RS3
not-
does.
Yeah. No,
RS3 is like you
Confident,
can
yeah.
chuck it in and it will find a way to get you through the corner.
that's
So
right. Yeah.
it's a good vehicle.
And of course, it wouldn't be a Blackwing drive unless you dump the clutch and do a sweet burnout like Brett did on our TikTok.
Oh, that was your burnout? Oh, man. But check out Motor One Com TikTok, right?
Motor One Com TikTok. There's a burnout video of the Black. Do you have the other performance videos up too?
Not yet, just that one.
Oh, so stay tuned because there are going to be some really good ones.
Feel left out.
That probably brings us to our last performance car, which was also our most expensive,
unconventional performance car, one might argue.
Mhm.
and that would be the Lucid Air Grand Touring.
Yeah. A car that we've now talked about on 3 podcasts because it has it's very attractive for a lot of different segments. But man, that car is friggin' quick. It's insane. It's absolutely insane.
I wish I had it mic'd up the first time I did when we were doing the acceleration tests,
Yeah.
because I let the most involuntary squeal of glee between about 20 and 60 miles per hour. I just like could not control.
It's incredibly fast. And we talked about this on the podcast last night, and I realize everybody here probably was not watching the podcast last night, but to recap, the 0 to 60 and 60 to 0 test the result was that the Lucid was so much shorter on the straight that we were doing it on than any other car. I thought that something broke and Brett was just sitting there. But when I did the first drive of the Lucid Air GT and GT Performance, which is considerably more power, it's another 200 horsepower basically. We did the launch control start in that car, of course, and we did it in a big parking lot, long space. I think exact words after we were done, like we had finished it, was, "You guys should not make this available to the public." It should be very difficult to activate launch control and have that kind of experience because somebody's going to kill somebody doing that. Essentially, it's otherworldly.
Yeah.
For me, and I know that I think I went further, felt it a little bit more than you guys did. I still think that Lucid has done an amazing job of making a very heavy car with all of the battery weight down low, feel far better handling, even in a racetrack environment than it has any right to.
Yeah.
Is it as nimble feeling as any of the other cars? Absolutely not, right? But it shouldn't. It almost can't.
Yeah.
With the physics fighting against it.
Yeah, I think, I mean, for what it is, the way it accelerates and the way it handles despite its size is wild. I had one very notable, I don't want to say issue with it, because I'm sure if I had gone out and continued to drive around, I would have adapted my driving style. But there's no way to defeat the regen in it completely. So you've always got regen in, and short of left foot braking, I could never get from the accelerator to the brake quickly enough when entering a turn that the regen didn't kick in and completely shift the weight of the car on an axle in a way that I did not want and I could not control.
Yeah.
Eventually I just started, braking a little bit more aggressively, but it was always kind of there. It was like having a pebble in your shoe. Like you know it's there and it annoys you. It's not debilitating.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the counter is that nobody intends to drive.
No.
Right.
And the thing is,
because we could and we wanted to, but
I enjoy regen on a twisty road.
Absolutely.
Like I love to drive an EV like it's a snowmobile with no brake, and I just kind of modulate with the throttle to speed up and slow down. I think that's great. It's just on a racetrack, it was a problem I'd never even thought about, and that I don't think any EV buyer is going to be thinking about.
And I think we all came away from our street drives in the Lucid feeling pretty good about it in terms of like Saturday morning canyon blast for the hell of it kind of a thing.
I will say, and I now understand why the Taycan doesn't have one pedal driving now.
Right. Yeah.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah, no, it was pretty brilliant. I drove it to get charged yesterday, and we live up a very we're staying at a very winding road from the nearest charger, and it was a lot of fun just kind of doing that one pedal drive on this winding road and kind of just getting it done perfectly.
I have no problem believing that.
It's a really great like solid luxury performance car. Maybe not as overtly performance oriented as the RS3 or the Blackwing or even the Elantra N, but a really incredible luxury car that can kick some serious ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really hope that at some point, I know it's not in the product cadence right now, but it would be really fun for the same engineering minds that put that car together to put their energies into a true out-and-out performance version of that with this technology.
Is
Lucid Air GT3.
Is this tri-motor going to be, the Sapphire, is that going to be a more track capable, or is that just?
I think that's just
that's good. What it needed was the lack of power. I'm glad Lucid is finally addressing that.
No, I mean the thing that you're fighting is weight, of course, and fighting weight is harder than just about anything else, especially when you've got to have a big battery to make all that work. But we talked to Tom Logley today about it, and like he was going on about the compactness of the electric motors, the overall they've actually lightened a lot of components in that car. It's just there's more inherent kind of weight in that when you're building a big battery EV.
And it's 350 kilowatt fast charging.
Yeah, no,
so
I mean,
when Electrify America cooperates.
In theory,
much higher.
right.
I was able to. I didn't get a max charge rate last night, but I was able to add 350 miles of range in 35 minutes.
But that's interesting. Like if you're on a track day,
completely insane.
Yeah, if you're on a track day and they have chargers there for electric vehicles, that's going to be kind of interesting to all right, I'm going to track, charge for 20 minutes, and then I can go back out.
Yeah.
I hope Rawlinson is watching and talking him into building a track day special.
Yes.
That'd be fun.
No regen, sir. No regen, please.
Cut it off. Oh my God. You guys, this has been amazing. We've covered
this is the
incredible amount of cars.
This is the longest live stream we've ever had, and we've actually retained a fairly decent amount of viewers. So clearly we're doing something right.
Thanks for watching, guys.
But yeah, it's been a great week.
Super fun. Yeah.
Some of these it's always a very daunting task. Like any of these kinds of programs are always very daunting and very terrifying. And then I always come away from the other side of it feeling like accomplished and also like very
exhausted.
Yeah. but
I've been stifling yawns for 45 minutes. I promise it's not been because the conversation is boring. I'm exhausted.
It's an exhausting week, but at the same time, we drove like a cumulative 2,500 horsepower around Willow Springs yesterday. Like that is just a very cool thing to do. So good times.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody. I can't do it. Somebody else.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. Thank you so much to all of our commenters, Noah, J-Dub, Jonathan Brown, Clairvoyant. Thank you all for being loyal fans and loyal watchers. And
thank you for Coil. Thank you to Kyle.
Thank you for Coil. Thank you for Coil for coordinating.
Oh my God.
Kyle, our awesome AV guy and video editor extraordinaire, behind the camera, doing a great job. It's been a great week.
Yep. Star Wars almost wrapped.
Stay tuned for results. They're coming. Do we know? Are we announcing when the results are coming?
Yeah, first week of December.
First week of December, you'll be able to tell us how wrong we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
We look forward to it.
All right.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Have a good
See
night.
ya. Bye.